Greetings, Bulldogs. This is Janet Cohn, your athletic director, and thanks to all of you for joining us. I can see many of you are logging on now. Donna's got you on. Welcome to another Bulldog Fall Spring Sports Roundtable. These are sponsored by our good friends at Mako Medical. And we're kind of shaking it up this time. We're going to bring you some of our sports that have not competed in a long time. Our fall sports and some of our spring sports who all got shut down we were just talking last March. So get ready for a good, fun 45 minutes to an hour. If you have questions for any of our student athletes, our coaches, if you'll type those in, David Jandrew, I'll be watching for those. But we want to take this time once again to thank all of you for joining us, but give you a little time to get to know some of our other coaches and some of our student athletes that you may not be as familiar with. And so you'll see I've got a couple of head coaches, but I got some assistant coaches joining us who get this opportunity. So let's start this off. This is a conversation just to kind of see what's going on. I'm no particular order, but I am going to start with volleyball because volleyball, believe it or not, is going to be kicking this off tomorrow. So that's one more of our sports is getting an opportunity to compete. They'll be joining with, our cross country last week and obviously our basketballs and our swimming. So I want to introduce you, Jen. Why don't you come off of mute? And Jen Peterson is our assistant coach. She's also one of our alums. So Jen, a big day tomorrow. We're going on the road. Why don't you talk a little bit about just share with a little bit of the excitement, what the team's getting ready for, and some of the things that you've been going through this whole season, really. Normally volleyball is a fall sport, but just talk to our friends a little bit and tell us a little bit about volleyball.
Thanks. So we are thrilled. Tomorrow we are headed on the road for our first game. We have not played since the previous fall. And so we spent the fall training, doing skill work, individual work. We had 5 new players this year. It's a rebuilding year for us, and that gave us a great opportunity to really work on skill development and to prepare for the opportunity to compete in the spring. And we are so incredibly thankful for this chance to go. We are very well prepared. The girls came in good shape and high spirits. They did incredibly well in the classroom in the fall, despite being primarily online. And they are thrilled to have the chance to compete. We leave tomorrow at 7, and we'll travel down. It's going to be really different. We got to pretty much get off the bus, do our pregame, get back on the bus, jump onto the court and play, and then leave. So it's going to be challenging. We're going to be playing with very limited capacity, so that's going to be challenging to generate energy. But technically, we're really well prepared, and the girls are healthy and excited to go.
So Jen, share with our Bulldog friends, volleyball is one of the sports that is going to Big South. We voted. They're going to wear masks the entire time they compete. Talk about that a little bit, because some of the other sports are not having to do that.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I think the girls really understand that the conference has voted to do universal masking. So we are practicing in mask and competing in mask. And that's a challenge, cardiovascular, for the girls. But we've been preparing for it. It's going to help to keep them safe while we're playing and while we're practicing. And I think that it's really the main priority is to keep the athletes safe and to allow them to compete safely. And that's going to do that for us. And so it's not ideal, but they've embraced it, and we've prepared under those conditions. And I think it's just going to be what it is. And if we have the chance to compete, it's the best way for us to do that.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, the NCAA and the medical experts have considered there's tier 1 sports, tier 2, high risk, mid risk, low risk. And volleyball is a high risk sport. So they really feel like by wearing these masks, that's going to really protect the student athletes and the coaches and obviously the officials too. So it's going to be very interesting. I'm going to turn now to one of our student athletes. This particular student athlete I have actually gotten to know even better through the years. Cecilia, I'm gonna let you come off mute. Cecilia is a great example of not only a great athlete that's committed a lot of time and energy to our volleyball program, but wonderful student. Actually, she's in one of the classes that we're partnering with teaching with athletics and academics this year. She also has a job. I mean, talk a little bit, Cecilia, not just the volleyball part, but what's it like a student athlete like you, who's also on our SAC, that's so involved? What your experience as a student athlete here? Share a little bit.
Yeah, thank you, Janet. I'm Cecilia. I'm a senior on the volleyball team, and going to UNCA, I think it's super important to stay involved with things like SAC and having a job on campus. It's just a super great way to get to know people from other sports, and especially with mask wearing, social distancing, quarantining, things like that. It's hard to stay connected with other student athletes, with other classmates who aren't necessarily athletes. So I just think it brings like a great perspective to, try and stay involved, do everything you can. And, even a Zoom call every once in a while makes you feel connected. So it's better than just sitting in your dorm room or your apartment.
Well, tell us a little bit, because you're in a marketing class with Paul McAvee's the professor. Share a little bit what's unique about this marketing class and the experience that your classmates are going to get, and you are too.
Yeah, so actually being an athlete and being in this class, I feel like I have a little bit of an upper hand. So it's really exciting because I know all the resources we have and I know everything that we get to do. But for this class, we are actually trying to see how we can create more crowd involvement. Specifically, we're focusing this semester on the men's and women's basketball games and how we can promote to the community. And my group specifically is families with children, and just like trying to get them involved in the athletic department and what would make them interested and what would make them want to come if they don't already come to the games. Obviously not right now, but hopefully when or if things get back to normal, we'll bring in a bigger crowd than we already have. And it just adds, to the environment, as we were talking about in the justice, especially the crowd environment, and just like the support from all the other student athletes and from you guys, the athletic department and our coaches. We appreciate it so much. And we're just so lucky to get to compete even in COVID.
And so, Cecilia, for you as a student in an academic class, you're getting a real world experience of creating marketing plans, right?
Yeah, totally.
So that's going to look pretty good on your resume, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
And we're going to really appreciate this next year when maybe we're implementing some of the plans that you're helping to create. Let's switch a little bit. Let's go to a spring sport. Let's go to JP Kimbrough, who's our assistant track coach for men and women. JP, some of our friends are not familiar with you yet because you're fairly new. You were here as a part-time coach. Now you're a full-time coach. Tell everybody a little bit about you and your background, and a little bit about what you're looking forward with the track season.
Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? Fantastic. So my name is John Paul Kimbrough, JP or Kimbrough or Apollos. But I am super ecstatic and thrilled to be a part of the Bulldog family. I transitioned from teaching and coaching in high school in Buncombe County for the last 10, 11 years, and then in Henderson County for a couple years before that. And I think my passion is the reciprocity that goes with giving back. And I think, when people ask me, well, Kimbrough, why are you a coach? Well, I was an athlete, and some of the coaches in my life were tremendous pillars in terms of like being able to lean on and depend on, but then also have people that I can look forward, to connecting with and who were helping me progress and move forward. So I think how I got here was I was super committed to wanting to give back and try to be an example of those exemplary figures in my life, and like, how can I give back and do that? So I've always tried to be someone who says, okay, I walk into a room, what is everyone doing? Here's the 2 or 3 people who are doing the best. I want to know them, and I want to try and figure out what they're doing, and how can I do something that's unique or better? And I think that has kind of proven to work out really well. And that's kind of how I got here. I've always tried to be the best at what I'm unique at and what I'm really good at. And sometimes people call that a superpower. So that's kind of my background in transitioning to UNCA. And now some of the things that I want to accomplish here is, I just think that this is such a fantastic place. Every day I learn something new about the university and how people are working together and trying to impact the community. And I realized that sports provides a tremendous platform for change, positive change, community change, impact. And my role as a coach now, I realize that like with the group of students that I have, it's a great opportunity to create positive movements, not only to create championships, which brings awareness to the university, but how can we go out and bring eyes to some of the really cool things that are happening here at UNCA, because it is awesome, right? And some of the things I think are overlooked. And so I'm trying to figure out how can we put some spotlights on some of the really awesome, cool things that happen on campus, because it's amazing. It's phenomenal.
Okay, so you're a Duke graduate. So are you saying that we're better than Duke?
Of course, I'm not at Duke. I'm at UNCA.
Right answer. That's the right answer. At least you get to keep wearing blue, so we have that in common with Duke. But you shared with me a couple of weeks ago, we got on a Zoom. You've kind of really been exploring the campus, meeting other people, other departments, and you particularly are looking for ways that the track program can get more involved and really make a difference. Mm-hmm. You want to talk a little bit about some of the things like sustainability and financial planning?
Absolutely. Yes, I'm very passionate about that. And the cool thing was, as part of the transition to, being a full-time employee, I was fortunate enough to go through an onboarding process where we had different presentations with different people. And I looked at that as these are opportunities for us to try and, spread our reach. And so I actually took some of those onboarding meetings and set them as goals. I met with Mr. Gibbons about equity, diversity, and inclusion. So I said, well, how can we as a team be more equitable, more inclusive, and more diverse? And so then I reached back out with him and set a meeting and said, okay, what is your vision? How do you think that we could be better as a team? And so I had a few action steps that we were able to move towards, and the athletes loved it. They were super on board. And the same thing happened with the sustainability department. I think our team is still kind of figuring out what's going to be our unique thing. We have a really interesting body of people, but I still think we're trying to discover how we're going to stand out on campus. And I had a fantastic meeting with Janet and the sustainability folks on campus. And from that, we're working on being more sustainable, including like taking some of the areas like at our track and say, hey, can we add recycling here? Can we create, we're working on this cool concept called the green card. And so if someone, comes out to practice with a plastic water bottle, we slap them with a green card, right? That's not sustainable. And so we're trying to take the voice that we have as athletes and trying to move it in a direction where we can highlight, again, some of the things that we do on campus. And the sustainability piece, like there's this eco run that we're planning, for post-COVID. And there's some amazing sustainable projects that are happening on campus that I had no clue about, even as a new employee. And we would like to shed light on that by maybe incorporating a fundraiser or something that allows people to really interact on a deeper level through our campus. And I think we have some really powerful, committed, super interesting athletes who are really pushing this forward. And I think it's going to be a really cool thing that happens in the future.
Well, we want to thank you, first of all, for joining us as an employee, and your enthusiasm and just creativity is, you're right, the track, men's and women's track team is definitely going to stand out. Speaking of someone who stands out, and another senior who's just been an unbelievable champion and leader, in my opinion, Kashana, why don't you come off of mute? I know a little bit about Kashana too. This is one of my favorite parts of this job, is when you get to be here and get seniors like Cecilia and Kashana, you get to know about them. Kashana, I know, is working very hard in her track and her academics. Kashana, introduce yourself and tell folks what you're really focused on right now. I know you've been involved with the Leaders for Leaders mentoring program, and you got some plans for your future. So share a little bit of that with our Bulldog friends.
Hello, can y'all hear me? Okay. Okay, great. Hello, I'm Kishana. I'm a senior here at UNC Asheville. I am a political science major, sociology minor. At the moment, I am currently working on getting an internship at a law firm. I'm excited about that. And also, I would say, oh, something else that I'm really like proud of is a group called Legacy on Campus. I don't know if anyone has heard of it. I recently was introduced to it last year, like fall semester. And so basically, it's a group on campus for women of color. And I decided to be a mentor in that group. So I'm kind of like excited for that. I've been a mentor since the spring semester of last year. Um, yes, I'm on the track and field team here. I'm a senior. I'm a thrower. I do not run. Um, that's not my thing. I don't know what else to say. Those are like really the two most important things I'm really excited about: the internship and then legacy.
That's great. Jim Peterson, can you go on mute because we got a little vibration there? Kashana, I know you have a special relationship with Marianne Jones as part of the Leaders for Leaders. Talk a little bit about that. That's our mentoring program, by the way.
Okay, so Lead for Leaders is our mentoring program for athletes here at UNC Asheville. So the purpose is to connect the athlete to someone like a community leader outside of campus, dealing with their skills or just for like connections in general. So if you're just trying to find a job or you're trying to find an internship or you just really need someone to talk to as an athlete, because I know athletes can be busy, it gets stressful, sometimes, you know, just a little annoying, not knowing what to do. So I'm so grateful that, you know, the athletic department created Lead for Leaders because you can have someone to talk to. Doesn't always have to necessarily be about your major. So like fun fact, when I started the Leaders for Leaders program, my first leader was not in my major. But everyone's different. I kind of wanted someone dealing with my field, but at the same time, I did build a good relationship with this person. Um, but at the same time, I was like, I want somebody in my field. But I actually loved the relationship. The relationship was amazing. But I just wanted someone in my field. But everyone's different. So I asked for Marianne because I wanted to go into the legal field. Marianne went to law school, the dean of a law school, excellent woman, love her. So then I was introduced to Marianne, and then we automatically clicked, and we've just been together. We've been together for like 2 years now, and she's helping me with the LSAT to get ready for the LSAT. She's helping me study for that. She's also like for Lead for Leaders, I would definitely say like take advantage of it if you do have, you know, please take advantage of it. It is really like so like for instance, I've always wanted to learn French. I did not know Marianne knew French until she told me, then I told her I wanted to learn French. So we've been learning French for the past like 5 months. She's been teaching me, so I do know a little French. So it doesn't really like your time value with your mentor does not have to be, you know, about the field. So like take advantage, build a relationship, understand that like they're here for you. They're just not here to be like go to this job or like go to this school or do this. They're actually like here for you. So please take advantage. It's amazing. So I would definitely say kudos to the Leaders for Leaders, and I would definitely recommend it.
Well, thank you so much for saying that, and thanks for joining us today. Let's switch to a head coach. Let's go to Coach Erica, our women's golf program. They too are taking off this weekend in their van to have their first competition. Erica, why don't you talk a little bit, because you have a very young team, a lot of freshmen, and they haven't had a competition. And so talk to us a little bit about our women's golf and what we can look forward to.
Sure. Thank you all for being here today. I'm super excited because this is going to be almost a year since I've coached a college golf tournament. Sometimes I'm like, what does that feel like? And I know that my girls are excited, even though majority of them have never experienced this before. I have 8 girls on my team. One was returning this year, so I had 6 freshmen, and then this spring we had a walk-on. And 2 of my 8 have college golfing experience. So those 6 freshmen, they don't know any better than what they're currently experiencing. The 2 that have come to me either as the walk-on or the returner are the only ones that can kind of relate to what it was previously and what it is now. Of my 8, I have 4 freshmen and the walk-on that is going to this first tournament. So my returner's not going because unfortunately she's injured. And that has been an interesting experience because she reached out to me and she said, Coach, they were texting me and they're like, we don't know if we can do this without you. You're the only one that knows what's going on. And so it's been a lot of fun for me having a young team. It's definitely taught me patience and understanding that I have 6 girls that have no idea what to expect. I tried to do a pretty good job of laying out my expectations and letting them understand that there's never too many questions that they can ask me, and just being patient with the fact that I might get 6 of the same question because I've got 6 girls that don't really know what's going on, and that's okay. It's helped me broaden my horizons as a coach and understanding how to effectively communicate to that big. I mean, it's big for me. I know that our track team has 80 student athletes and I have 8, so I have 10% that they do. But for me, it's big. So I'm super excited to get to compete. And I know the girls are too. They have been pushing themselves very hard. They've been very diligent in all of our protocols to ensure our safety and well-being to be able to ensure that we get to go to this tournament. And I mean, the text messages that I got over winter break of how excited they were that a competition was on the horizon. We actually had a tournament against the members of the club that we practice at here in town. And after they played in that, they had so much fun and it was nice to get that competitive fire going again. And I made it hard for my team. I picked 8 of the best handicapped players at the Cliffs at Walnut Cove. My girls paired up in twosomes and they played a 1 best ball against them. And unfortunately we lost, but I didn't make it easy. And it was a lot of fun to be able to get out and compete, not necessarily in a college setting, but just to get some competition, because for some of these girls, it's been a while. Some got to play over winter break. Some haven't played since July. So it's an exciting time to be able to see competition on the horizon again.
Well, that's great. And you know, I'm gonna, before we introduce Sierra here, I want to bring this up. Some of our student athletes and coaches might not know this, and certainly some of our Bulldogs. You actually played professional golf. Tell us a story, something about playing on the Symetra Tour that has helped you as a person or as a coach.
I'll talk about when I decided I was ready to be done playing professionally. I actually played in a Symetra Tour event here in Asheville. So I had an attachment to the city and actually some of our donors before I ever got the job here. So the year before I ended up going into coaching, I remember my dad asking me if this was something that I wanted to continue doing. And every time he asked, because he was helping foot the bill. So anytime I didn't do well, his bank account hurt. And obviously as a kid, when your dad is the bankroll, sometimes it puts a little pressure on the parent-child relationship. And so when he would ask me if I was sure I wanted to do this, I would have panic attacks about thinking about quitting the sport that I loved. And I quickly realized that I loved competing. I loved playing golf, but I loved sharing and growing the game of golf more. And until I got to that point where I was capable of understanding that that's what my path was meant to be, it was the reason I had panic attacks, because I hadn't gotten to that point where I had grown emotionally, matured emotionally enough to understand that. And it was August of 2018. My dad asked me the question and I didn't have a panic attack. And I thought, oh, maybe it's time. And so I thought about all the things that I enjoyed the most about playing professionally. And I loved to practice. I loved to compete. I hated getting beat. And putting in anywhere from 80 to 100 hours a week of work on my game and not making a paycheck was really hard to understand and grasp. And the things that you sacrifice, and to me, they didn't feel like sacrifices because I was doing the things that mattered, as far as if I went on family vacations or if I hung out with my friends. My friends understood if it was daylight outside, Erica was not hanging out with anybody. She was at the golf course. And that wasn't a sacrifice to me because it got me to where I wanted to be. And in learning all of that and getting to the point where I was like, you know what? I was always the player on the SMEX tour. You can ask anybody who runs that tour, who was the one person that they could count on for meet and greets, to play in pro-ams, to do the clinics for the kids, to do clinics for sponsors and whatnot. I loved sharing my love for the game of golf. And that was the one thing that I have brought into my coaching is I pull on my experiences of triumphs and tribulations a lot from the tournaments that I play in. But my overall love for the game is what I pulled most from playing professionally and being able to share that with my student athletes and my team. I played at 2 different schools in college and I had some great coaches and 2 completely different coaching styles that kind of taught me what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do. But when I got to that point where my dad finally asked me, are you sure this is what you were wanting to do? And I had no emotion towards that question whatsoever. I was like, maybe not. So I'm doing exactly what I meant to be doing, and playing professionally helped me realize that. Playing college golf, I was always told by other people that I was good enough to play professionally. And I was like, yeah, okay. And until you get to that point where you're graduated and you're like, do I want to go in the real world or do I want to continue playing the sport that I love? And I went to Q school and I flew through it with flying colors. And then just continued to play professionally, continued to grind, and seeing what it takes to get to every single level helps me help my players, because I understand the things that you have to sacrifice. I understand that what work ethic and talent you had in high school got you to college, but it will not get you through college. The work ethic that you develop in college will help get you to the professional stage, but it will not get you through the professional stage. And being able to go through every single one of those stages, I feel like it has helped prepare me as a coach to help my players if that's something that they want to do. And I'm so thankful for that experience.
Let me come off mute. We're thankful that you are here. And I see Sierra shaking her head. Sierra, if you'll come off mute. First of all, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you. And then I've got a couple special questions for you. So get ready.
Yes, of course. So my name is Sierra Carty, and I'm from Wilmington, North Carolina, but currently I preside in Ohio, around Columbus, Ohio, and I'm a freshman, one of the 6 freshmen, which is kind of exciting. But I am intending on majoring in health and wellness on a pre-med track, so that's pretty exciting. I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but I guess we'll see. But yeah, so I'm just really excited to be here and talk about what our team is all about. And I mean, this year has been, I'm kind of a bummer because we haven't been able to compete, but it's been exciting with my whole team. We all get along really well, and we all just like ignite a fire inside ourselves. But yeah.
Well, that's great. I saw Taylor smiling up there. He might talk to you a little bit since about middle school, so there's a little connection there. So I saw you shaking your head when Erica was talking about what she learned and how she's hopefully communicating that. What are some of the things you've learned this through the fall and now a month into the spring that from Coach Erica that's helping you with your game?
So right now, most of the things I'm working on is dealing with my mental game, since it is such a big deal in golf. And usually like people tell you like, oh, just stay positive. You're like, okay, sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But it's so much more than that. And I love how Coach Erica, sorry, she understands it because she's played in professional golf. Like she's played in numerous amounts of tournaments, and a lot of the times people can't tell you what it's actually like because they've never actually been in your shoes before. but actually to have somebody that can tell you that they've felt this before and that I can help you through it, like working through like the process you need to go through before your each shot. And it's just really encouraging to me because sometimes I feel kind of lost and I'm like, I don't know how to control my emotions when XYZ happens, So it's really nice to have somebody that can, help me through it.
Well, that's great. And we're glad you're here too. We're looking forward to the day, not too soon, when we can say you're a senior. So we want to stay here, be part of this great women's golf program we're building. Let's switch to another head coach who is also an alum. So we've got two UNC Asheville alums on this Zoom. And Coach Mick, I know we're just a week, 12 days away from our soccer. We didn't have fall soccer. So tell a little bit of what's going on with men's soccer right now.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for having myself and Taylor represent men's soccer here today. And thank you all for tuning in. Currently we're match day -9 out from our preseason game down at Furman. And we're just training every single day at the moment. I have to say the boys have been unbelievable with how the snow hit unexpectedly and the amount of snow and the amount of changes we've had to have over the last 2 weeks due to weather. They've been spot on, and their mentality and sharpness has been wonderful. And the thing we've talked about most is whoever can be the most flexible, whoever can be the mentally toughest, and can be able to strive for excellence even through difficult times, that group will be the one that will celebrate the Big South tournament here when April comes around. And our boys have been unbelievable, to say the least. And so just training away, trying to get fit, trying to be prepared for Furman, but even more so prepared for Longwood in the Big South when we get here later in February.
So talk a little bit, how's the schedule? The Big South schedule is different than if we had played in the fall. Describe what this schedule is going to be like. And is it any different preparing for this kind of schedule than if we had played in the fall?
Yes, ma'am. It's actually for us and for the team, it's a little bit nicer. Essentially, it is one game a week on Sundays, with 2 exceptions or 3 exceptions, I guess I should say. One floating midweek game that all the schools had to schedule before March 17th. Ours is at Radford, which we'll play on a Thursday evening. And then the other 2 exceptions was instead of playing on Easter Sunday, we'll play the night before at Presbyterian. And then the last game of the regular season, we'll play everyone plays on a Thursday night to end the regular season before we go into a semifinal and a final. So the 2 main differences we have with the schedule is it's a little bit more time to prepare, a little bit more like the professional setting where we can actually take some time. It's not go, just try to recover, basically ask our physios to duct tape people back together and strap them up and go get it done. And then our tournament this year for the spring will be just a semifinal and a final instead of a quarterfinal, semifinal, and a final. So it's nice though. Like I said, the amount of time we'll have for preparation and the amount of time the boys will have to recover will certainly be welcomed by all, including the staff. Maybe we won't see Ross having to sleep in the office having to try and do film and whatnot. We'll be able to get some time at home.
Yeah, so our soccer season for the spring is going to be much like the American football once a week, which I know across the country a lot of the soccer coaches have been asking for that to have two seasons, a fall season and a spring season that are actually competitive. So we got a chance to try that out. Mick, some of our friends might not know, you grew up in a household that had a coach. Talk a little bit about growing up with a parent that was a coach themselves and how that's affected what you're doing.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. I think the super positive part out of it was my coaching career got started early, even as I was still playing. My dad is a director of a club back home, and does a lot of stuff within the youth game, and now even helping a little bit in the high school level out on the coast. And at age 16, I was traveling to play club and everything to make sure, he was helping me try and be at the highest level. But he also told me he wanted me to help him with his under 11 boys team, to see a different side of it and to see the other side of the game. And then that just kind of drove the passion even more. I'll say he was unbelievable in regards to, he didn't try to coach me when he would come to games unless I asked. We kind of had that agreement that unless I brought it up, he wasn't going to say anything. If I brought it up, then it was fair game for criticism and for improvement. But if I didn't bring it up, then he was unbelievable about it. And I think seeing his passion as I grew up for the youth level and to continue to try and help them get to where we are, I knew I wanted a little bit of a different path and enjoyed some of the older ages. And I think that kind of just built my love of the game, being able to see the organization that he had and the things that he taught me along with my mentors, and what you have to do to put your best foot forward to help your group be successful. Because ultimately that's what it's all about, is being able to help your group find success and make sure that they're in a situation where they can be positive going into every single game and really every single day.
Wow. Well, this next student athlete is no stranger to some of you, because Taylor has been on multiple search committees, board meetings, Zooms, in-person things. He's well known around campus. He too is one of our student athletes. Like the others on here, is not just a leader in the athletic department, but a leader on campus. Taylor, if you'll come off of mute so that you can talk a little bit. Coach Mick took over now, gosh, almost a year ago. It's getting, time is passing. How is things different within the men's soccer program now that we've, obviously we had a year where there hasn't been a lot of soccer played yet, but talk a little bit about that, Taylor, in your experience.
So first and foremost, thank you for having me. Like AD Cohn said, my name is Taylor Durrell. I'm a senior here, originally from Central Wisconsin. So sorry I brought the snow with me. But I think the biggest change I would say is the first 2 weeks under Mick's leadership, we ran more fitness than we did in my previous 3 years here, which the boys are feeling, excuse me, and we desperately needed. But he's taken the group in such a positive direction. Really brought a fresh perspective to the game. We went into a different formation, a different set of tactics that's really been suited to our strengths. And he's really, one of the things I really appreciated about the previous leadership, Coach Mennel, is that he ensured that we were students and then we were athletes. And that's one of the things I love most about UNCA, and Mick's definitely continued that here. There's been times where I said, "Hey, coach, I've got an MCAT class I have to go to. I've got an experiment I have to run." He's like, "All right, you just let me know when you can make it," because he understands that my academics here is my priority. But I think the rest of the boys would say the same. They really care about developing us not only as footballers but as students, and then people off the field. And that's ultimately what it's about at the end of the day.
So Taylor, without going into too much details, because when I hear you talk about this, I realize how little I know about chemistry and research. I know you've been involved now throughout your time here in undergraduate research. And I heard you present not too long ago. Tell a little bit about the research and what faculty members you're working with.
Yeah, of course. So the overarching goal of the lab that I'm in is to better understand the role that these two proteins known as G-alpha-12 and G-alpha-13, the role that these two proteins play in cancer development, and to identify potential steps in signaling pathways that could be targetable by drug therapies. And the analogy I use frequently with people is cells talk in a manner that's similar to relay races. So you have your first protein interacts with the second, then the third, and then the fourth. And at the end, you have some physiological outcome. In the case of cancer, it's rapid cell growth, and then eventually a loss of cellular adhesion, which leads to metastasis. And so the protein that my lab researches is the first protein in this, we'll call it the relay of life. And so what we try to understand is, okay, so this first protein, what are the second proteins, downstream of it? How do they interact? What are the third and the fourth proteins? And my research, what I'm investigating is I think I've identified a previously unknown relationship between the first protein and a potential, I think it's a third protein. And this relationship may play a role in the development of metastatic cancer. I have to say I'm incredibly thankful for the mentorship I received by Dr. Ted Miggs, who, he grew up in Western North Carolina, PhD from Stanford, postdoc at Duke. I mean, the dude's brilliant, to put it bluntly. And he has an incredible passion for learning, or for teaching, especially undergrads. And that's, the UNC experience. We pride ourselves on undergraduate research. I'm incredibly grateful that I am able to do graduate level research as an undergrad. I've still got a year left here, so it's a really awesome experience.
Well, he might be a smart dude, and I agree with you, quote unquote, but I think our student athletes are on here. Y'all are right in that same boat. So I know I'm prejudiced, I'm your AD, but I think we have some of the best and brightest. And I'm glad Taylor said that about Dr. Biggs, because I think one of the great things about this experience, not only you get great coaching from your coaches on the field, but our faculty are just unbelievable. And our student athletes certainly are scholar athletes. So it's really unbelievable experience. I knew Taylor, I watched JP. When you started talking relay, like a relay race, he now understands what you were talking about. So this is really great. Me too. Thanks for putting it in that way. I want to move to the two Chris's. I just realized this. We're going to talk a little baseball here, which is also another spring sport that got shut down last year. They were in the middle of really what we think was going to be a turnaround year for our baseball program. So I'm going to let Chris Breezy, our assistant coach, come off of mute. Tell us a little bit of what's going on with baseball right now, and kind of when we're going to kick off the season. We didn't get to have baseball night in Asheville this year, so give us a little update on baseball.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I was going to say you saved the best for last, but after listening to Taylor, I don't know if that's true. Sounds like he's cured cancer, so that's pretty cool, or working on it at least. But yeah, our season will kick off just under 2 weeks. We'll start on the 3 weeks, on Tuesday, the 23rd of February, at Western Carolina, which is just about a 3 days later than normal. We'll be missing out on the first weekend, but that's okay. Currently, we are under a sheet of ice and snow, so our team's been working inside pretty predominantly the last week or so, but the guys are getting after it. It's a lot of skill work, so we're going to have to hit a lot of team stuff when we get back onto the field. But yeah, and you mentioned baseball night as well, which we missed out on, but I know Coach Freeds and David are working on rolling out another fundraising activity that we'll be going out here shortly.
Let me come off of mute. One of the things that, and I want to say this not only to you, but Jen, I think Mick, everyone, JP, Erica, every coach on here has volunteered. I've kind of, especially baseball, y'all have volunteered to help us at every basketball game. Y'all are there constantly. So all of you are been helpful. As you know, we're sort of on a lean staff right now. So I want to thank you and your other coaching colleagues here for volunteering throughout. But I want to switch a little bit because I've also said when basketball's over, we're going to be sending the basketball coaches out there to volunteer at volleyball and baseball. But talk a little bit about our new dugouts and what that means to recruiting in our program. And, and thank you to some of the folks that are on here that donated to those. So talk about a little bit how facilities play a difference in being successful.
Absolutely. So we've been here for 7 years now. And when we first got here, it was very similar to like a high school field. And we've done a great job. A lot of people on this call, along with Coach Friedholm, and raising some dollars and getting some upgrades. Basically since we've been here, it's a brand new field. The playing surface was something we took care of first when we first got here, and that was about a 2 or 3 year process of making sure the playing field was up to a Division I standard, and that was something we took care of first. And then since then, and basically the past 2.5 to 3 years, we've added a new wall, a new champion wall, a new scoreboard, new batting cages, new dugouts, new netting system, new walls. So basically everything on the inside of our field is brand new. And someone like a Chris Trost, who's on this call with me, that's been here for 5 years, has seen that. Actually there was 2 alums that were here this past weekend that I ran into out at the field, and they just are amazed at some of the stuff that's happened. And it's really helped us in the recruiting side of it, but it's also helped us with our players as well. Just for them to see the progress of that field and that facility is something they take pride in. And again, seeing those 2 alum this past weekend, when it was covered in a sheet of ice and snow, and they were still really, they take pride in it. They're excited about it. And they're talking about how do they get a beer garden built. So that's something that I'll pass along to Freeze and David and you, Janet.
Okay, well, we'll pause on the beer garden right now since we can't all be in person anyway. So that's a good way to say let's hold off on that one. Chris, tell us a little more about yourself and what your time at UNC Asheville, being part of the baseball program, and also academically.
I'm Chris Trost. I'm from Medford, New Jersey. I'm actually a 5th-year senior. And I just finished my degree in management last spring, and I actually had the opportunity. I like to call it an opportunity because not a lot of people get to play 5 years of college athletics without taking a redshirt year or anything like that. I had the opportunity to come back and try to do what I came here 5 years ago to do with all my buddies in my class, to make this a winning program and continue to build it in the right direction for the school, the coaches, and the alumni. And academically right now, I am completing a minor because there's no graduate program for me at the university, but I came back to do a minor because it was a no-brainer to come back to a athletic program in a school like this. So.
Yeah, Chris, thanks for sharing that. Because remember when college athletics got shut down, seniors, everybody got the option if they wanted another year of eligibility. And that also will be true for next year for the group that's going on if they didn't have a chance to compete. So, I'm glad Chris wanted to come back and help us. And Breezy, I'll let you come back off too, because let's talk like we did with soccer real quick. How is the baseball schedule different? Because, usually we play like 53 games. How is it going to be different because of COVID and what we're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so we'll be playing 45 games this year as opposed to 56, which is a lot better than 16, which we played last year. So we're excited to get out there. With that, with the way the schedule's set up, we'll actually be playing all the weekend games. Will be a 1-game Friday and a doubleheader on Saturday. Which is a little bit different than what we normally do. We normally play a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series. So it's a little condensed, which is good because everybody kind of understands that they're going to have a chance to play. When we get out there on Saturday, we're playing 18 innings of baseball in one day. So, a catcher can't catch all 18. We're going to have to use 5 to 10 pitchers in that day, just depending on the day. So that'll be exciting. We're playing 40 conference games, which is a really exciting thing because we didn't get to play any conference games last year. And we were heading into conference in a really good situation. Like you said earlier in the lead, and we were, expecting that to be a really turnaround year for us. And we'd won 2 of our last 3 series going into conference, and we felt really confident. So being able to play 40 conference games, that's going to give us a huge opportunity to make an impact in the conference. So it'll be a little bit different, but at least we're playing.
Absolutely. We're excited about that. So David Jandrew, my co-host, is back there. I know we got some Q&As. Why don't you come off of so we can see you? You can ask the questions to anybody you want to based on the questions that people have submitted. So I'm going to let David ask a few questions. So get ready, folks.
Absolutely. And folks that are tuning in, feel free to put your questions in the Q&A, and we'll get to as many of those that we have time for. Taylor, thank you for the inspiration that you gave. I'm now going to have my own protein relay on Super Bowl Sunday, some wings, burgers, and pepperoni pizza. So you have inspired me today with your protein relay. So thank you for that. The first one's for the coaches, then we'll go to the student athletes. Coaches, one of our folks listening wanted to know how recruiting has changed a little bit for you, both regionally and nationally, through this pandemic. So we'll open it up to any of you that want to jump on and comment on that.
Chris came off mute first, so you go, Bree.
All right, I'll start it. Obviously, it's a little bit different. We haven't been able to get out on the road since this all started in March to actually see players. So a lot of it's based off of video recommendations, people that we trust. It's been different, but so is everything in this world. So we're adapting, and we ended up bringing in, for the class next year, we have 8 guys coming in, which is about the same size as our normal class. So we'll probably be adding 1 or 2 more junior college players moving forward for next year as well. And then, our theory is this when it comes to recruiting. If somebody wants to come play baseball for us and we think they're a good fit academically, athletically, socially, I don't care if they're from Mars. We're gonna find them. We're gonna get them to come here, and we're gonna make them into great young men and great baseball players.
Somebody else? Some kind of different recruiting? Anybody want to talk about that? JP?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the biggest things for us is also understanding how the legalities are changing rapidly, and so I think our department here has been great. In fact, I met with Aaron Spence this morning about some questions because things just keep changing. And I think we've done a good job of communicating that and then being able to adjust so that we can kind of get the ideal fit for what we want. And I love what, Bree said. If there's someone who's really interested, I think that the university does a really good job of putting them in front of the right people or connecting them with the right systems or the right videos in place of some of the things that we can't do in order to really showcase why they should be here at this university. But we're all having to pivot. And so as soon as we get a new set of parameters, okay, well, here's what we can do for recruiting, and we just have to adjust and do that as best we can.
All right, David, how about the questions for student athletes?
Before we get to the student athletes, got another question for Erica. Talk about coaching during a golf match. If we watch a baseball game, we watch a basketball game, we can see what the coaches are doing. For you during a golf match, talk about what coaching is like for you.
That's a great question. It's a lot of fun for me to answer. I'm a therapist. I'm a swing coach. I'm a caddy. It's not just one singular thing, and I have to be it for 5 different people that are spread across the golf course. So sometimes I feel like I'm running around the golf course like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to get from player to player. But One thing that I'm super excited about because of COVID is when we go to a tournament, we're typically paired with another team. And so your 1 through 5 is paired through their one, like my one will play with the one from the other 2 teams. Well, right now, because of COVID, my entire team is playing together. So I get to coach all of them at once. And so as a coach with 6 freshmen, I'm very thankful for this. But it's really interesting for me because it is an individual sport, but it's a team score that counts. So you have to understand how to coach a team and how to coach each individual. You have to learn how to talk your players off of a ledge very quickly. Like Sierra said, golf is extremely mental, and it is very easy to knock over the dominoes and not be able to stop them from falling. If you can make it fun, if you can kind of distract them on the golf course when things aren't going well, and you have to do the same thing when things are going right. When you play good golf is when you play basically unconscious golf. Golf is harder the smarter you are because you tend to overthink. So if you tend to be an airhead, please pick up the game of golf because you're going to be great. You're going to forget about all the bad stuff and you're just going to have a good time. But in tournaments, the biggest thing that I try to do is to keep my players present. What's in the future, you can't control, and what's in the past, you can't change. And so a lot of it is, and it's a very, very, very hard thing to grasp and to master, is being present. My players spend a lot of time on the driving range and on the putting green, honing in their physical skills. But we actually have had some conversations about that this semester, about understanding how to train your brain, just like you train all of the other athletic portions of your sport. Golf is 80% mental and 20% skill. And we probably spend 20% on our mental game and 80% on our physical game. And so being able to pull from my personal experiences that I've dealt with, I've gotten in those situations where the wheels are running downhill and you can't catch them. And you try to get it to stop, or you're playing one of the best rounds of your life. And all of a sudden you wake up and you realize it and you're like, holy crap, I'm 7 under. What do I do now? And so when things are going right and when things are going wrong, you coach them the same way. They have to be present. And getting them to understand that it's a game and to have fun. And the score on that scorecard at the end of the day does not identify who they are as an athlete. And that's the hardest thing, because as a coach, when you're recruiting, what do you ask them? What'd you shoot? So when you're younger, you get conditioned to think, I am my score. I am what I produce athletically, but it's not. There's so much more that goes into it. And if you can get them to be present in tournaments, and you can get them to focus, not so much on the score that they're producing, but the information that they have to gather to effectively hit the shot that they're presented with at that moment in time to the best of their ability, they're going to continue to be present. If they're worried about the fact that they just made double bogey and that we're 2 strokes behind as a team, they're not going to be focused on their next golf shot. So the biggest thing for me is making sure they have fun and making sure they stay present.
Great. All right, student athletes, get ready. Here we go. Rapid fire. Janet mentioned Coach Breezy. We go by nicknames in baseball a lot. Chris Trost, best nickname on the baseball team.
Best nickname, probably my roommate of 5 years. His nickname, Brandon Langford, we call him Puddin' because he used to eat and leave jars of pudding around our dorm room when we were younger, and it's stuck for 5 years now. He doesn't like it.
I like that. Taylor, fastest player on the team.
Definitely not me. They're gonna hate me. Oh gosh. Maybe Izzy.
Okay.
Nick, you want to?
It wasn't you. I like the honesty. That's great. Kashana, the funniest person in the track program is who?
Me.
Shauna.
Besides you. I knew you were going to say that.
Second funniest. I don't know. I know I'm the first funniest, but I know who the second funniest is. I'll take second also, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, I knew you were the funniest. I was wondering if you would name anybody else. Sierra, you come from Wilmington, but now you're in Asheville. Beach or mountains, which is better?
Oh, that's a hard one.
You got-
Probably mountains, actually.
Mountains?
Mountains, yep.
Okay. And Cecilia, I saved this one for last. Who on the team does the best impression of either Coach Jen or Coach Fred?
You're gonna get me in trouble here. I would say she's no longer on the team currently, but Cher, we had a teammate a few years ago who actually dressed up as Santos for Halloween, bald cap, basketball shorts, volleyball t-shirt, high socks and all, and she killed it. They took a picture together and they looked identical. So I would give it to her.
Great. Well, I want to thank you. We're right now at our hour. I want to thank Mako Medical again for sponsoring this webinar. And I want to thank those listening and tuning in. I want to say to all the coaches and student athletes here and convey this to your teammates. We are so looking forward to having every last one of you competing this spring. And we're gonna handle it. We're gonna cheer you on. We're gonna be there for you. And thank you so much for being Bulldogs and representing our university in such a positive way. I know speaking for Chancellor Cable, she'd be so proud right now. So let's go Bulldogs, and we'll have another one of these in a couple of weeks. So more to come. Thanks, Donna and David, for helping. Bye-bye.